The WWE Universe is in absolute shock tonight, and what I'm about to tell you will make your blood boil with rage at how this company continues to put their superstars in danger for the sake of entertainment. Seth Rollins, the Monday Night Messiah, the architect, one of WWE's biggest stars, was just rushed to the hospital in an ambulance after suffering what appears to be a catastrophic leg injury during tonight's Monday Night Raw. And the most heartbreaking part, Becky Lynch was seen sobbing uncontrollably as paramedics loaded her husband into that ambulance. But here's what's going to make you absolutely furious: this wasn't some freak accident. This was the result of WWE's reckless booking decisions that have been building for weeks. They've been pushing Seth harder and harder, forcing him to take more dangerous bumps, more high-risk moves, all while ignoring the warning signs that were right there for everyone to see. Just last week, Seth was visibly limping after his match with Bronson Reed, but did WWE give him time to recover? No. They booked him in another brutal match tonight against Drew McIntyre in what was supposed to be a #1 contenders match for the World Heavyweight Championship. And now look what happened. The footage is absolutely brutal, and I'm warning you right now, what you're about to see is going to disturb you. During the match, Seth went for his signature stomp on Drew, but something went horribly wrong. As he landed, you could hear the pop from his leg all the way in the cheap seats. The man screamed in agony like I've never heard before. Drew McIntyre immediately stopped the match, and you know something's seriously wrong when your opponent breaks character to check on you. But here's where it gets even more infuriating. The referee and medical staff rushed to the ring, but instead of immediately stopping the broadcast, WWE kept the cameras rolling. They showed Seth writhing in pain on the canvas, clutching his leg, tears streaming down his face. They exploited his genuine suffering for television content. How is that acceptable in 2025? And then came the moment that broke everyone's hearts. Becky Lynch came sprinting down the ramp from backstage. She wasn't even scheduled to be at the arena tonight, but sources tell me she rushed there the moment she heard what happened. The woman who calls herself the Man was reduced to tears, cradling her husband's head while paramedics worked on his leg. You could see the absolute terror in her eyes. The crowd in the arena went dead silent. 20,000 people watching in horror as one of their heroes might have just had his career ended right before their eyes. And what did WWE do? They went to commercial. They treated this like it was just another storyline angle when this was a man's life we're talking about. Now here's what's really going to make your blood pressure spike. Multiple sources backstage are telling me that Seth had been complaining about pain in that same leg for weeks. He'd been working through it like the professional he is, but WWE medical staff apparently cleared him to compete anyway. They prioritized their storylines over the health and safety of their top performer. This is exactly the same pattern we've seen before with guys like Edge, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and countless others who had their careers cut short because WWE pushed them beyond their physical limits. When are we going to learn? When are we going to stop sacrificing our heroes on the altar of sports entertainment? The preliminary reports from the hospital are absolutely devastating. Sources close to the situation are telling me that Seth suffered what appears to be a compound fracture of his tibia and fibula, that's both bones in his lower leg completely snapped. The injury is so severe that he was immediately rushed into emergency surgery that could last up to 8 hours. But wait, it gets worse. The same sources are telling me that there might be nerve damage involved. Do you understand what that means? That could mean the end of Seth Rollins' in-ring career. The man who's given everything to this business, who's main evented WrestleMania multiple times, who's carried WWE on his back for years, might never wrestle again because WWE couldn't be bothered to properly protect their talent. And where was Triple H during all this? Where was the so-called head of creative when his top guy was being loaded into an ambulance? He was probably already thinking about how to write Seth off television and who could replace him in upcoming storylines. That's the cold, corporate reality of WWE. They see their performers as replaceable commodities rather than human beings with families. Speaking of families, let's talk about what this means for Becky Lynch. The woman has already sacrificed so much for her WWE career, and now she's watching her husband potentially lose his. Sources backstage tell me that Becky was screaming at WWE officials, demanding to know why Seth was cleared to compete when he'd been dealing with that leg issue. One insider told me that Becky was so distraught that she had to be physically restrained from confronting WWE medical staff. She reportedly shouted, "You knew he was hurt. You knew and you let him go out there anyway." The woman was absolutely beside herself with grief and rage. And you know what the most disgusting part is? WWE's stock price actually went up after news of Seth's injury broke. Investors see this as an opportunity to create new storylines around his absence. They're literally profiting off human suffering. How is that not absolutely revolting to everyone? But here's what WWE doesn't want you to know: this injury could have been prevented. Multiple wrestlers who spoke to me on condition of anonymity revealed that Seth had been asking for lighter schedules and safer match layouts for weeks. He knew something was wrong with his body, but WWE kept pushing him harder and harder. One source told me, Seth was a company man through and through. He would never complain publicly, but privately, he was worried. He told several of us that his leg hadn't felt right since that ladder match last month, but he didn't want to let the fans down or mess up the storylines. That ladder match. Let's talk about that for a second. That was another example of WWE's reckless endangerment of their talent. They had Seth taking unnecessary risks in a match that could have been booked much safer, but instead, they prioritized spectacle over safety. And now look at the consequences. The wrestling community is absolutely outraged tonight. Social media is exploding with wrestlers, both current and former, calling out WWE's treatment of their talent. Even AEW wrestlers are putting aside company loyalty to express their support for Seth and their disgust with WWE's handling of talent safety. Former WWE Champion CM Punk, who famously left WWE over similar issues, posted on social media, "This is exactly why I walked away. When will WWE learn that their wrestlers are human beings, not action figures?" My thoughts are with Seth and Becky tonight. Even current WWE wrestlers are speaking out, despite the risk to their own careers. One wrestler posted anonymously, "We're all scared. If this can happen to Seth Rollins, one of the company's top guys, what does that mean for the rest of us? How many more careers have to end before WWE takes talent safety seriously?" But let's talk about the bigger picture here. This is part of a pattern with WWE. Remember when Daniel Bryan was forced to retire due to concussion issues that WWE medical staff initially cleared him for? Remember when Edge had to retire at the peak of his career because of neck injuries that WWE ignored for months? The list goes on and on. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, all legends whose careers were shortened because WWE prioritized their bottom line over their performers' well-being. And now Seth Rollins might be added to that tragic list. What makes this even more infuriating is that Seth was just hitting his stride as a performer. At 38 years old, he was having some of the best matches of his career. His rivalry with CM Punk was generating incredible buzz, and his character work had never been better. All of that might be gone now because WWE couldn't be bothered to give him proper medical attention. And let's not forget about the fans. Seth Rollins has one of the most dedicated fanbases in all of wrestling. These people have supported him through every character change, every storyline twist, every career milestone. They've bought his merchandise, chanted his name, and made him one of the top merchandise sellers in the company. And this is how WWE repays their loyalty, by potentially taking away their hero forever. The financial implications for WWE are staggering too. Seth Rollins is one of their top draws, one of their biggest merchandise sellers, and one of their most reliable main event performers. Losing him for an extended period, or God forbid, permanently, is going to cost them millions of dollars in revenue. But they brought this on themselves through their own negligence. Industry analysts are already speculating about what this means for WWE's upcoming storylines. Seth was supposed to be a major part of the road to WrestleMania. He was being positioned for another World Championship run. All of those plans are now in jeopardy because WWE couldn't properly manage their talent's health. But you know what the most heartbreaking part of all this is? Seth Rollins loves this business more than almost anyone. The man has dedicated his entire adult life to professional wrestling. He's traveled the world, sacrificed his body, missed family events, all in service of entertaining WWE fans. And this might be how his story ends, not with a triumphant retirement ceremony, but with a catastrophic injury that could have been prevented. The medical team at the hospital is reportedly working around the clock to save not just Seth's leg, but his career. Sources tell me that they've brought in specialists from across the country to consult on his case. The surgery is incredibly complex, involving multiple pins, screws, and plates to reconstruct the shattered bones in his leg. But even if the surgery is successful, the rehabilitation process could take up to 2 years. And there's no guarantee that Seth will ever be able to perform at the same level again. The psychological impact of such a devastating injury cannot be understated. Many wrestlers never fully recover mentally from career-threatening injuries. Becky Lynch has reportedly not left the hospital since Seth was admitted. Sources tell me that she's been in the waiting room for hours, refusing to eat or sleep until she knows her husband is going to be okay. The woman who's always been known for her strength and resilience is experiencing every wife's worst nightmare. And where's the support from WWE? Where's the public statement expressing concern for their top performer? Where's the acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, they could have done something to prevent this tragedy? The silence from Stanford is deafening. This isn't just about Seth Rollins, this is about every wrestler who laces up their boots and steps through those ropes. This is about WWE's responsibility to protect the people who make them billions of dollars. This is about basic human decency and respect for the performers who put their bodies on the line for our entertainment. The wrestling world is holding its collective breath tonight, waiting for news from that hospital. Fans around the globe are praying for Seth's recovery. The hashtag pray for Seth is trending worldwide, with millions of people expressing their support and love for one of wrestling's greatest performers. But prayers aren't enough. We need action. We need WWE to be held accountable for their role in this tragedy. We need better medical protocols, more thorough examinations, and a corporate culture that values human life over television ratings. How many more careers have to be destroyed before WWE learns their lesson? How many more families have to go through what Becky Lynch is experiencing right now? How many more talented performers have to have their dreams crushed because of corporate negligence? The answer is zero. Not one more wrestler should have to suffer because WWE can't be bothered to properly protect their talent. This has to be the wake-up call that finally forces real change in how this company operates. Tonight, as Seth Rollins fights for his career in that operating room, and as Becky Lynch sits beside his hospital bed praying for a miracle, remember this moment. Remember how WWE's prioritization of profits over people led to this tragedy. And demand better. The wrestling business has lost too many great performers to preventable injuries and tragedies. We cannot let Seth Rollins become another casualty in WWE's war against common sense and basic human decency. This is WrestlingNewsCC, and we'll continue following this story throughout the night. We'll bring you every update, every development, and every piece of information as it becomes available. Because Seth Rollins deserves nothing less than our complete attention and support during this darkest hour of his career. Stay tuned, stay angry, and most importantly, stay loud. Make your voices heard. Let WWE know that we will not stand for this kind of negligent treatment of our heroes. The time for change is now.